Okay. Okay, good evening, everybody. We are actually having a session on hyperthermia therapy and the evidence behind hyperthermia therapy. We have kind of covered for cancer therapy, both in upper GI cancer and also cancer in women. We move on, and I'd like to invite Dr. Hawan Singh to introduce the next speaker. Hawan?
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Our next speaker is Professor Yu Seong Moo, or Seong Yu Moo. He's right now the president of the Korean Manual Medicine Association. He's a director of the Yosan Muongji Hospital. And I also understand a CEO of Red and Blue Company. I think that's an insurance company. But he is also a professor at Yonsei University's outpatient family medicine. And he will speak about the use of hyperthermia in medicine. Hyperthermia in pain medicine. Thank you. May I invite Professor to speak? I need you to share your screen, Professor.
Yes.
Thank you. Can you share your screen, please?
Okay. Hello, everyone. I'm glad to meet you. Today, I explain about cancer and pain. First,
Professor, we need to get you to share screen.
Yeah, okay. Wait.
Yeah, so we can see your slides.
While we're waiting, Hawan, you yourself have
some experience.
Can you see?
With the use of hyperthermia?
Yes.
Okay, we can see.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Start?
Yes, please.
Yes. Pain in cancer patient. Pain reduce the quality of life for many cancer patients. Pain prevalence in cancer patient, 64% of patients with advanced cancer. In about 43% of these cases, pain control is insufficient. Korean study, 52% of cancer patients complained of pain. Classification of cancer pain according to physiologic mechanism. First, nociceptive pain. Pain caused by stimulation of nociceptors due to organ damage. Classified as somatic pain and visceral pain. Most can be controlled with non-narcotic and opioid analgesics. Neuropathic pain, pain caused by abnormalities in the central nervous system and peripheral nervous system. It is accompanied by neurological abnormalities such as allodynia, which feels pain even with stimuli that do not cause pain, or paresthesia in the area governed by the damaged nerve. Concomitant administration of adjuvant analgesics and interventional pain treatment are often required for analgesic treatment. In most cases of pain experienced by patients with advanced cancer, the mechanism of the nociceptive pain and the neuropathic pain are mixed. Classification of according to the temporal occurrence pattern of pain. First, persistent pain. Second, sudden pain. Pain that gets worse intermittently when the pain is controlled. Pain that worsens with movement, such as pain due to spinal metastasis. Temporarily worsening pain. Reported in about 60% of cancer patients and 80% of patients admitted to hospice. According to a domestic study, it occurs at a frequency of 3 or more times a day in 45% of cancer patients. Assessment of cancer pain, general principles. Be sure to check for pain when treating all cancer patients. Use the pain assessment tool to screen the presence of pain and measure and record the pain intensity. A comprehensive pain assessment is performed on all patients who complain of pain, including those who have had previous pain and those who are new to it. For effective pain management, educate patients and families to use assessment tools at home. Second, comprehensive assessment. Target finding the cause and the mechanism of pain. Analyze factors that may affect pain expression. Combining all factors to find an appropriate treatment method. Patient with severe cancer pain. Rapid and appropriate pain control according to emergency situations is required. Comprehensive assessment. Evaluation items, history of pain, current pain treatment history, response to treatment, presence of breakthrough pain, assessment of cancer-related symptoms other than pain, current cancer status and cancer treatment evaluation, other comorbidities and a history of chronic pain prior to cancer diagnosis. Psychosocial assessment, evaluating the patient's expectations for pain control and the impact of pain on daily life. Physical examination, appropriate tests such as blood and imaging tests. Knowledge and misconceptions about pain and pain control. Examples of misconceptions about pain and pain control. Being in pain means that the disease is getting worse. Painkillers are addictive. If you use painkillers from the beginning, you may not be able to control the pain later. Pain relievers should be used only when the pain is unbearable. Painkillers are harmful to the body. Complaining of pain prevents doctors from focusing on cancer treatment. Continuous assessment. Periodically evaluate the effectiveness of pain treatment, side effects, and adherence to treatment. Evaluate whether scales such as numerical pain grades have improved and the patient's subjective pain level of improvement. Pain should be evaluated 15 minutes after intravenous administration or 1 hour after oral short-acting drug administration when opioid analgesics are administered to hospitalized patients. For outpatient, leases every few days to weeks, depending on the severity of pain. Assess for constipation, nausea, vomiting, somnolence, and other adverse neurological side effects. If the pain pattern changes or new pain occurs, the pain is re-evaluated as a whole. Educate patients and their families on the use of pain self-recording papers to report change in pain patterns, etc. Choose one principle of cancer pain treatment. Choose an appropriate treatment method for each patient. Plan a multidisciplinary treatment. Educating patients and families about pain management. Opioid analgesic. General principle. Individually select the appropriate opioid type, dose, and route of administration for each patient. The route of analgesic administration is given priority, but an appropriate route is selected according to the situation. Those that can control pain without side effects. Pain can be controlled by administering opioid at any stage of pain intensity. Side effects management of opioid analgesics. First, constipation. Stimulant laxatives and osmotic laxatives are administered as prophylaxis as a tolerance dose not develop and persist during opioid analgesia. Constipation persist. Differentiation of intestinal obstruction and fecal infection. Narcotic analgesic conversion. Consider adding gastrointestinal motility boosters.
Sorry, Prof. Yu, can I stop you here? Are you going to focus on hyperthermia eventually?
I know. But explain everything.
Okay.
Very important. Sorry.
Okay.
Second, nausea, vomiting.
Yeah. We have limited time, yeah? Okay, go on.
Sedation, sleepiness, delirium, respiratory depression, others, urinary disorder, itching. Pain treatment method used in modern medicine, HAPEC, ultrasound, TENS, ICT, laser, PO, injection, nerve block, fluorotherapy, acupuncture, chiropractic treatment, hypothermic therapy.
Okay, thank you.
Hypothermic therapy, remission 1, heat therapy applied to cancer patient. Principle, increase in body temperature, blocking DNA replication in cancer cells, NK cell activation, pain reduction, reducing pain with a principle similar to low frequency therapy. Effects of heat treatment, change occur in metabolic activity, hemodynamic function, nerve response, musculoskeletal activity, and physical properties of collagen tissue. Increase the rate of oxygen absorption in tissues. Therefore, more nutrients are usually used to promote this tissue healing. When heat is applied to one part of the body, blood flow to the skin increases to the extremity of the body. Change the ability of heat to raise pain threshold. Change in nerve conduction velocity, and changes in firing rate of muscle spindles. Remission 1, the energization method generates frictional heat by directly contacting the human body and vibrating intracellular ions and polarized molecules. Other types, in the radiation method, radio waves generated from the ceramic vibrate adjacent cells to generate carriage heat. Remission is a choice of treatment of cancer pain, my opinion. Conclusion, remission 1 used to treat pain is more efficient than other device. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Professor Mu. Dr. Betty, may I just add a comment? Is it allowed? It'll take just half a minute. Yes, what I want to mention to the audience, and maybe Professor would agree with me too, is that pain management is more of an art than a science. It is multimodal. It really depends on how the patient feels, because you're measuring patient-reported scales and they are all subjective. That is why we do not have a wealth of information that is evidence-based, because the primary data has always been subjective. But I think, Professor, you have illustrated the multimodal management of pain in cancer patients and highlighted very well the effect of hyperthermia in tissue. Would you agree with me that it is because of the soft tissue, we're getting the soft tissue to release some endorphins or something around the pain-producing elements? I just would like your comments on it before we move on.
Well, maybe we should get Guy to answer. Miss Guy?
네, 그래서 통역해드리겠습니다. 지금 제가 잠시 말씀을 덧붙이겠습니다. 교수님께서 동의하시는지, 박사님께서 동의하시는지 말씀 부탁드립니다. 그래서 저희가 통증 관리라는 것은 보통 굉장히 주관적인 환자가 느끼는 통증을 기반으로 하기 때문에 주관적일 수밖에 없습니다. 그렇기 때문에 통증에 대해서 증거 기반으로 데이터를 분석하고 접근하는 것이 굉장히 중요한데요. 그런 점에 있어서 교수님, 이번 박사님의 발표가 굉장히 의미가 있었던 것 같습니다. 그래서 멀티모달로 통증을 관리하는 것에 대해서 열치료가 어떻게 증거 기반으로 훌륭한 치료법이 될 수 있는지에 대해서 잘 보여주신 것 같거든요. 그래서 이제 핵심으로는 이 하이퍼서미아가 이 그 연조직, 소프트 티슈에 이제 작용을 해서 뭐 엔돌핀이라든지 그런 것들을 이제 내게 되고 그 결국은 통증 완화에 효과가 있다. 이렇게 봐도 될까요?
예. 들리나요?
Yes. Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
네, 저희 잘
Thank you.
들립니다,
네,
박사님.
그리고 되게 통증이 주관적인데 저희는 이 하이포서미아 레미션 완을 쓰면서 저희가 통증 심도를 측정하는 프로그램까지 같이 운영을 하고 있어서 초기에 그 부위를 전부 찾습니다. 찾아가지고 그 부위에다가 저희가 레미션 1도 그 레미션 장비를 어플라이 해갖고 통증을 컨트롤한 다음에 그 이후에 다시 통증 심도를 측정을 하는 데이터를 지금 모으고 있습니다.
Yes, exactly. So pain felt by patients are very subjective. So what we do when we apply this remission to 1 degree is that we measure the pain subjectively felt by the patients in the initial stage before applying the remission 1 degree. And after applying the remission, that we measure the pain, the subjective pain felt by the patient again to compare the before and after the hypothermia.
Okay, it does not answer the question, but the endorphins are not produced by soft tissue muscles, but they're usually produced by pituitary gland and the central nervous system. Is it not correct to say that?
Well, that's correct. I was just wondering whether it does have an effect, whether has anybody analyzed whether there are these substances which come out through the neuroendocrine system and concentrate at the soft tissue region, the soft tissue pain.
Unless there is an objective measurement. Yeah. Yes, I think like you say, it is subjective.
Very subjective.
Subjective. It could have been a placebo effect for all we know.
Yes.
Okay. Can I?
Thank you.
To introduce, do stay around, one.
I will.
Yeah. Can I go on to introduce the next speaker, Professor San-Man Kim, who is actually going to speak on the evidence of hypothermia in what is a very, very important topic, which is on COVID patients. And this is going to sound very interesting. I'm very eager to know, and I would like to know the evidence behind this. Please go ahead. Can we unshare the slides, please?
Okay. Can you see it?
Yes, we can. Is this your slide?
Can you see it?
The one with the diving, the snorkeling?
Okay, started.
Yes.
Good evening. 예.
화면 공유가 안 됐습니다.
화면 공유?
유 원장님, 화면 공유 꺼주셔야 될 것 같아요.
네, 내가 나갔다가 올게요.
네.
됐나요?
Okay.
Can you see it?
Yes, now.
Yes.
Yes. Good evening, everyone. I'm San-Man Kim. Nice to meet you. I will presenting on the topic of the role of hypothermia in the treatment of COVID-19. A good treatment is a treatment that is both safe and effective. Unfortunately, no such treatment has yet been found for COVID-19. Therefore, there is a need for an effective treatment that can be safely and easily applied to patients. Hypothermia has been used since BC and is currently used in various medical fields, such as pain and cancer treatment. A typical virus life cycle. The virus attaches to the host cell enters the cell, proliferate, and assembles using intercellular organelles or substances, and then exits the cell. SARS-CoV-2 also multiplies by a similar process. There were 6 types of human coronavirus until 2 years ago. 4 of these cause only mild colds. By the way, SARS-CoV in 2003 and MERS-CoV in 2012 were known. And SARS-CoV-2 will be added to human coronavirus at the end of 2019. The left photo is SARS, the middle is MERS, and the right is SARS-CoV-2. SARS-CoV-2 has evolved to be stronger, more sophisticated, and have more spikes than the previous coronavirus family. Example of treatment for COVID-19 include remdesivir, chloroquine, and monoclonal antibodies. Most of drug studies are drugs used to treat hepatitis virus, HIV virus, influenza virus, and malaria. In the clinical study, remdesivir did not lower the hospitalization period and the mortality rate. And it had no effect on mild patients. Also, the treatment conditions are very difficult and expensive. Almost all antibody treatment are ineffective and expensive. The problem is that the use of antibody treatments can induce the appearance of mutants. Therefore, antibody treatment should be used very limitedly in high-risk people and are not suitable for the treatment of a mild patient. This is a paper that shows the lifespan of coronaviruses according to temperature. Red is SARS-CoV-2. As with other coronavirus, it can be seen that inactivation is sensitive to temperature. This paper was published in Nature Review Immunology 2015. Fever is a basic defense response to infection that has been conserved in vertebrates for more than 600 million years of evolution. There's growing evidence that increased cold by temperature improves survival and resolves many infections. Fever strengthens your resistance to infection and increases your chance of survival. You have a fever because you are trying to kill the viruses or bacteria. Most viruses multiply well when the body is at a normal temperature. However, with a fever, it is difficult for the virus to survive. It also activates the body immune system. Innate immunity is a defense system we have from birth. It protects us from all antigens. Cells of the innate immune system include NK cells, macrophages, neutrophils, and dendritic cells. NK cells are the core of innate immunity and the link between acquired immunity. The number of NK cells decreases and their function declines with age. This is why the death rate from COVID-19 is high among the elderly. The increase in cold by temperature caused by hyperthermia can inhibit the proliferation viruses by more than 90%. Since SARS-CoV-2 virus is also a virus that is susceptible to heat, a good effect can be obtained with hyperthermia. This is paper published in the International Journal of Hypothermia in March 2021. Most respiratory viruses thrive best at temperature between 33 and 37 degrees Celsius. At body temperature above 37 degrees Celsius, the proliferation of the virus is sharply reduced. High core body temperature increases the activity of interferon gamma from 4 to 16 times compared to normal body temperature. NK cells are specialized lymphocytes that kill cancer cells and viruses. The natural lifespan is 2 weeks. In the absence of infection, NK cell activity is low. However, when fever is generated by infection, the activity of NK cells increase rapidly, and the virus-infected cells are immediately removed. This paper was published in Nature Review Immunology in July 2021. It shows that NK cells play an important role in viral infection. And activation of NK cells is the key in the treatment of COVID-19. There are two main treatment mechanisms for hypothermia in COVID-19 patients. One is the suppression of virus proliferation by heat. More than 90% of viruses proliferation is reported to be suppressed. The other is increased immunity due to heat. In particular, the activity of NK cells targeting the removal of virus-infected cells increases dramatically. This is a pig experiment to see if deep heat is increased by hyperthermia using remission. Temperature sensors are placed in 3 places in the abdomen, and the heat treatment is performed. The experiment was conducted by Dr. Tae Jin Sung's team at the Department of Hepatobiliary Surgery, Korea University College of Medicine. It can be seen that the deep heat rises during hypothermia and reaches 42 degrees after 50 minutes. Residual heat remained for more than 1 hour after hypothermia. Remission is the world's first and only heating device that tested whether or not deep heat was raised using a pig as an experimental animal. This is data showing that NK cell activity is dramatically increased by hypothermia. This paper is a research paper on whether it is possible to quantify the correlation between the positive result PCR test and the infectious power of the virus using the CT value. 29,686 cases were tested. On the left, if the culture was positive, that is, if the virus was alive and contagious, the CT value did not exceed 30 except one. This is clinical experience applying hypothermia to COVID-19 patients. These are the results obtained by hypothermia using remission to COVID-19 patients at Seosan Medical Center. PCR tests for E gene, RDRP, S gene, and N gene of SARS-CoV-2 were measured before and after treatment. In the case of E gene, the PCR CT value increased from 23.66 before treatment to 32.63 after treatment. RDRPS gene, in the case of RDRPS gene, the PCR CT value increased from 24.07 to 33.18. In the case of N gene, the PCR CT value increased from 25.22 to 33.24. All patients recovered without complication. There is currently no safe and effective treatment for COVID-19. Expectation to end the pandemic through vaccines are also difficult due to variant viruses. It is a safe and powerful antiviral mechanism and activates the immune system. Hyperthermia for COVID-19 patient is a safe, effective treatment method. And I think it will be an excellent treatment option to save mankind from the pandemic. Thank you for your attention.
Oh, strong statement, very strong statement. Can we take questions from here? Okay, I have a lot of questions. Firstly, on the use of COVID-19, okay, you have actually shown us these patients, this E gene, RDRP and N gene, are they from patient samples in a clinical trial or are they in vitro samples with cells?
질문 드리겠습니다. 그 코로나 환자의 이진과 그 엔진에 대해서 그 CT 밸류를 측정하시지 않았습니까? 이것은 실제 환자 샘플을 임상 실험하신 것인지 아니면 그냥 시험관 인비트로 세포를 사용하신 것인지 궁금합니다.
실제 환자를 대상으로 했습니다. 20명의 환자를 대상으로 코로나 확진자.
So the actual 20 patients.
So they are from patients. Okay. Now, how does this E gene or N gene or RDRP translate to recovery? Is there a reduction in hospital stay? Is there a reduction in patients that goes into for ventilation? Is there a reduction in death? Is there also a control group?
네, 그렇다면 그 이진, 엔진 그 수치를 측정하셨는데 이게 실제로 환자들의 회복에 있어서는 어떤 영향을 미쳤는지 궁금합니다. 뭐 입원하는 날짜가 줄어들었다든지 혹은 뭐 호흡기를 착용해야 되는 그런 경우가 줄어들었다든지 그런 구체적인 사례 어떻게 회복에서는 수치상으로 나타났는지 궁금하고요. 또 대조군이 있는지도 궁금합니다.
작년 5월에 한 실험이고요. 실험 자체는 서산에서 했고 일단 환자들은 모든 환자가 다 뭐 호흡기 치료라나 이런 그 컴플리케이션 없이 다 치료 완치됐습니다. 완치됐고 단 그 당시에 저희 그 방역 지침이 그 환자의 증세와 상관없이 증세가 호전되고 퇴원시킬 수 있는 그런 기준이 아니었고 이 정해진 날짜만큼 예를 들어서 14일이 아마 그 당시 기준이었을 겁니다. 그동안에는 환자가 증세가 호전되어도 퇴원시키지 못했기 때문에 저희가 PCR CT값만 갖고 했고요. 아직은 대조군을 갖지 못하고 있는데 최근에 대조군 연구를 지금 진행하려고 계획 중에 있습니다. 대조군 연구는. 예.
So this is
Yes, go on.
May I ask a question afterwards? Yeah.
Yeah. Gay, just you can go on first.
Okay, so yeah, this is the data from May last year. And actually we did this trial in Seosan, South Korea. And back then the quarantine policy that we have in South Korea was that we were not allowed to release the patient even if they were fully recovered. So they were ought to stay at the hospital for at least 14 days, even if they are fully repaired. So, but all the patients, the 20 patients were fully recovered without having any complications. And so we just looked at the CT values and there were actually no control group, but we're going to work on the control group this year.
So what does this E gene or N gene indicate? Where does it come from?
그렇다면 이진, 엔진이라는 게 구체적으로 어떤 것을 가리키는지도 궁금합니다.
그 세포를 바이러스를 구성하는 것은 그 엔빌롭이 있고 그다음에 뉴클리오 캡시드가 있고 그다음에 RDRP라는 그 중합 효소라는 게 있습니다. 이제 그거를 만드는 진, 그 유전자를 측정하는 겁니다. 원래 PCR이 유전자 검사법이기 때문에 그걸 측정함으로써 그 세포들이 이제 거기 있느냐를 측정하는데 그거에 대한 CT 값은 기준선인데 그게 너무 높으면 살지 않은 세포가 있다. 이제 그것까지는 뭐 표현하기 좀 어려운데 어찌됐거나 RDRP 이 개념은 E는 이 코로나 바이러스 싸고 있는 막 엔빌럽에 대한 만드는 유전자고 N은 뉴크로캡시드, 바이러스는 뉴크로캡시드라는 게 있거든요. 그 뉴크로캡시드를 만드는 유전자. 그 다음에 RDRP라는 그 중화효소 폴리머레이즈를 만드는 유전자를 유전자를 측정한 거죠. PCR로. 네.
So for the virus that we have there's different kinds of genes, E gene, N gene, and RDRP gene. And E gene is the envelope that is enveloping the virus, and N gene is the nucleocapsid, and the RDRP is the polymerase. So these are the genes that consist of, these are the genes that is forming this virus. So when we are doing this PCR test, this is actually the applying these genes to see whether these genes are detected from, whether these genes are detected. If these genes are detected, that means that this virus exists within the human body.
Okay, why can I ask that he embarked on a study that didn't look at clinical outcome?
네, 임상 결과는 왜 보지 않고 이렇게 연구를 하셨는지 궁금합니다.
임상 결과는 있는데 그걸로 한 임상 결과 그냥 다 좋아졌어요. 전 환자가 컴플리케이션이 없었어요. 없었는데 그것까지 여기다 올려주기에는 시간이 제한적이 돼서 못 올려드린 거예요.
Yes, we do have the clinical data as well, but I did not include it in the slides because I did not have enough time to cover it within 15 minutes. So that's why I did not include it in my slides. But all the patients, they fully recovered without having any complications.
저 잠깐만요.
네.
그 아디프레스 한성원 대표예요. Good morning, everyone.
Okay.
우리 코로나 임상에 관련돼서 간단하게만 말씀드리고 싶은데요. 우리가 서산의료원에서 직접 저희가 치료를 했고 25명의 환자를 치료를 했고 거기에서 단 한 명도 중증으로 가는 환자가 없었어요. 그리고 여러 명의 환자들은 그 초기에 치료가 돼서 이틀만 3일 만에 퇴원한 환자도 있었고요. 환자에 따라 좀 틀린 것 같고요. 일단은 면역력이 올라가면 말 그대로 우리 몸에 그 코로나 CT 값이라고 말씀한 그 값이 올라가요. 그 값이 현재는 지금 30이 넘어가면 감염 수치가 아니고 그 전파를 더 이상 시킬 수 없는 상태로 이르기 때문에 지금은 감염 그 수치보다는 빨리 회복하고 중증으로 가지 않는 게 중요하기 때문에 그런 데이터는 저희가 가지고 있어요. 필요하면 공유해 드릴게요.
So, hello everyone. I'm Han Sung-woo, the CEO of Adipol Labs, and I would like to add on to what was just explained. Yes, we did this. This study in Seosan at the Seosan Medical Center in South Korea on 25 patients, actually 25 actual COVID-19 patients. And no single patient had complications and progressed to become the severe cases. So even for some patients, they got fully recovered in just 2 to 3 days. And you see that what this hypothermia is doing is that it enhances the systemic immunity for the entire body. So, and that makes the CT value go up. And so for the COVID-19 cases, what's important is that we need to have the full recovery as soon as possible so that the patient's symptoms will not progress to become the severe patients. That is the first one that is important. And the second one is that we need to prevent it from prevent it from become more contagious. So it works in these two ways. And we do have the clinical data from the Seosan Medical Center. And if you need it, we can share it with you.
Okay. First, there is no, the numbers are very small and there is no, it is not randomized, neither is there actually a control group. But if you were to use it to treat COVID patients, so there has been many questions about how many sessions of hypothermia therapy would be given to a COVID patient, what kind of regime. Dr. Lim Keng Yi asked that. And of course, Dr. M.K. Lee asked whether the hypothermia administered to acutely ill COVID patients, what is the regimen used? So same questions, somewhat the same. So maybe you could enlighten us on that.
네, 그래서 지금 우선 전체 환자 숫자가 좀 적다라는 측면이 있는데, 그리고 또 그 무작위도 아니고 대조군도 없다라는 좀 측면을 감안을 해야 될 것 같습니다. 그래서 실제 우리가 코로나 환자에게 이 하이퍼서미아를 적용하겠다라고 할 때 한 몇 번 정도, 몇 번 세션 정도 적용을 해야 할지에 대해서 말씀을 부탁드립니다. 그리고 어떻게 만약에 중증 환자에게 적용을 한다고 했을 때는 또 어떻게 적용을 해야 할지에 대해서도 말씀을 부탁드립니다. 마이크가 안 켜져 있습니다, 박사님. 음소거가 돼 있으신데요.
It's muted.
예, 음소거가 돼 있으세요.
How come he's muted?
마이크가 안 켜져 있으세요.
Asked to unmute.
네, 마이크가 안 켜져 있습니다.
Mute all, unmute all, cancel. Okay, unmute. Ask him to unmute. What happened to him? Something is wrong. How come you can't unmute? Huh? Ask all to unmute. Okay, let's try. Now he can speak now.
네, 원장님 말씀하세요.
Can
아니 원장님 그 뮤트 푸시면 돼요. 뮤트.
지금 안 돼요? 제가요? 근데
돼요.
우리한테 열어줘봐라.
지금
열어주세요. 열어봐. 지금 음소거가 돼서 그거 안 되니까 제가 먼저 얘기를 해드릴게요. 네. 지금 대조군이 없는 게 아니고 그 같은 시기에 했던 사람들 중에 저희가 지금 그 60명의 치료 안 받은 환자에 대한 데이터도 가지고 있어요. 그래서 대조군은 있다고 볼 수 있고요. 그리고 한국도 마찬가지지만 그 보통 치료를 했을 때 치료 기간이 얼마가 되느냐가 중요하고요. 그 다음에 중증으로 가는 환자 비율이 얼마만큼 줄어들었냐가 중요한데 그 두 가지에 대한 결과는 상당히 좋게 나왔어요. 국가에서 모든 환자를 관리하다 보니까 저희가 많은 환자를 치료하지 못한 건 사실이에요.
Since Dr. Kim is muted, we'll respond on his behalf. So it's not that we did not have the control group. We actually had the 60 non-treated patients. So 60 non-treated patients. So we do have these cases as well. So if you need it, we can share it with you as well. And for treatment, what's important is that how long the treatment lasts, so how fast the patient can recover, and how many patients actually recover really fast, so that they do not progress to become the severe patients. But if you look at the hour,
there's something wrong with this Zoom, can you unmute yourself, please, Gay? Because if I unmute everyone, everybody is speaking. Gay, can you unmute yourself? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Ask all to unmute. Okay, let's see. Can you unmute?
Yes, now I'm unmuted. You
That's
can hear
right.
me now, right?
Yes, I can hear you now. But the problem
Yes.
is that
됐네.
everybody else, please,
Now
Oh,
Dr.
yeah,
Kim is
yes.
unmuted as well.
좀 할까요?
everybody is unmuted. So you get what I mean? Something is wrong with this.
Betty, can you hear me? Betty?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, what you can do, please unmute to everyone, but ask everyone to mute it again.
Yes.
Manually, they have to mute.
Yes. Can you guys mute yourself if you're not speaking?
Yeah, correct.
Yes. Because when I mute everyone and the rest, the speakers can't unmute themselves. There's a glitch. Okay, go on.
저기 얘기할까요?
Okay.
So did you just hear what I said?
Yes, I heard what you said.
Okay,
So
okay.
basically, you took the patients who did not go for hyperthermia as control group, and there was 3 of them.
Yes, yes.
Okay, but that is not usually how you do a trial.
지금 현재 이거는 그 프리미널 스터디, 그러니까 이 초기 연구기 때문에 그런 거고, 현재 그 컨트롤드 스터디를 계획하고 있고, 그걸 위해서 국제적인 그런 그 행사도 같이 했습니다. 이브라라 그래서. 근데 그건 잘 모르시는 것 같으니까 어찌됐거나 이걸 시작으로 해서 정말로 그 안전하고 그다음에 효과적일 수 있다면 연구를 좀 더 지속하고, 또 코비드 19으로 끝날 게 아니라 앞으로는 코비드 25, 27도 올 수 있기 때문에 그걸 위해서라도 이런 치료법들이 계속해서 연구가 되어야 되고, 저희의 그런 임상 짧은 경험이지만 저희는 굉장히 고무적이다. 이제 이렇게 얘기해 주면 되겠네요.
Okay, Dr. Lim Keng Yi asked, when was the samples taken? When was before and the after samples taken? Because naturally, as the patient is recovering, the CT score also decreases as time passes by. Can you answer that, Dr. Kim? Professor Kim?
Yes, but Dr. Kim responded to your question. So can I translate that first?
Yes.
네, 지금은 이것은 이제 그냥 예비 시험 단계라. So it's just a preliminary study. So we're going to have the study on control group as well. So international discussion is going on at IVRA as well. And you see there are no effective and safe treatments available for COVID-19. And we never know that it will be COVID-25 or COVID-27 that might come up later on. So we need to study further on the treatment of these the type of virus. So based on what we have seen with our preliminary study, that we can say that this treatment method seems quite encouraging.
Okay.
So I will ask your question to Dr. Kim. 네, 그렇다면 그 샘플은 구체적으로 언제 채취하셨는지 궁금합니다. 어쨌든 환자가 이제 회복세에 있었다라고 하면은 CT 값이 줄어드는 추세에 있었을 것 같거든요. 그래서
진단 초기에 했고요. 진단 초기에 했고요. 그다음에 이제 여기서 저희가 이제 뭐 여러 가지 문헌이나 경험에 의하면 하이퍼서미아는 경증 환자에만 경증 내지는 중등도, 중증 환자에는 의미가 없습니다. 벌써 여러 가지 리스폰스가 나타났기 때문에. 그래서 초기 환자, 그리고 우리가 한 거는 저기 진단 초기예요. 전부 다. 진단 거의 되자마자 하이퍼서미아를 했고, 그러고 나서 2, 3일 후에 다시 이제 검사를 했는데 거기 CT 값이 올라간 거거든요. 좀 더 시간이 많았으면 좀 긴 게 있었을 텐데 어쩔 수 없이 시간 제약 때문에 그랬는데, 하여간 그 초기 환자를 대상으로 CT 값이 진단적 가치가 있을 때 했고, 그 다음에 3일을 치료했습니다. 3일 치료했고, 이틀 치료했고, 그 다음 날 검사했는데 CT 값이 올라간 거죠. 예, 나중에 자료를 갖다가 필요하시면 보내드린다고 이렇게 해주셨으면 좋겠어요. 같이 조인하겠습니다.
So samples were obtained right after the diagnosis of COVID-19. So based on the literature and our experiences, that we can tell that it's very important. The hyperthermia is effective for the very early stages of the COVID-19, and it's very effective for the mild patients. And so we applied this hyperthermia for 2 to 3 days and measure the CT value on day 3. And we were able to see that the CT value has actually changed.
But I think there has been many questions about the regimen of the regime of the therapy. I know Dr. Nora Shikin asked again, is this treatment for adults only of a certain body weight? And when's the best time to treat? And what category of COVID these patients were in your study? I suspect that it was mild. And how long per treatment and how many times? I don't think he has answered this question yet.
네, 또 질문 드리겠습니다. 그래서 구체적으로 어떤 환자들에게 어떤 주기로 적용을 하는지 궁금합니다. 그래서 몸무게가 뭐 어느 정도 이상이 되는 환자들에게 적용을 할 수 있는 건지, 그리고 치료를 뭐 하루에 몇 번 혹은 어떤 주기로 하게 되는 것인지 궁금하고요. 그리고 코로나 환자 중에서 어떤 환자들에게 적용할지에 대해서도 질문이 나왔었는데 보니까 지금 경증 환자에게 적용하게 된다라고 박사님이 답변하시는 가운데서 나온 것 같습니다. 그렇다면 이제 어느 주기로 하루에 한 몇 번 정도 얼마나 길게 적용을 해야 되는지 궁금합니다. 마이크가 안 켜져 있습니다, 박사님.
Yeah?
마이크가 안 켜져 계시거든요, 박사님.
네네네, 지금 됐어요.
소리 들리시나요?
예, 들립니다.
이 임상은 지금 이게 임상 실험을 하려고 한 게 아니에요. 처음에 이거를 시작한 거는 제가 이 미생물 전공을 했어요. 그리고 우리 한 대표랑 같이 얘기를 해서 바이러스가 열에 약하다는 거는 누구나 다 알아요. 그렇기 때문에 우리는 확신이 있었고 그 당시에 이 코로나 바이러스가 이렇게 유행할 때 치료 방법이 전혀 없었어요. 그래서 저희는 확신을 갖고 이 서산의료원에 입원한 환자들을 대상으로 해서 전수를 다 하고 싶었지만 여건상 하지를 못했고 그 동의한 사람들에 한해서 한 25명 정도를 치료를 한 거예요. 임상을 하기 위한 게 연구를 위한 게 아니라 실질적으로 이 장비가 치료 효과가 있다라는 확신이 있었기 때문에 이 충청남도 도지사님하고 협조하에 저희가 치료를 한 거예요. 그래서 대조군이니 뭐니 이런 말은 의미가 전혀 없는 거예요. 그리고 실질적으로 저희가 2-3번 치료를 하고도 그 전염력이 없는 CT값의 결과까지 도달을 했다라는 거죠. 그게 획기적인 건데 자꾸 이렇게 사람들을 생각하는 사람들은 뭐 대조군이 어떠니 뭐 그 치료한 연구 그 군이 너무 작다고 얘기를 하는데 저는 이 일을 하면서 정말 자긍심을 갖고 있는 게 세계 최초로 이 열치료 가지고 코로나 바이러스를 잡았었다라는 거에 대해서 저는 큰 자긍심을 갖고 있는 거예요. 설명 좀 해주세요.
So, yes, I would like to say that this is not the clinical study that you normally see. So we did not study this for the purpose of doing the clinical research. What we did was that we actually provided the treatment for the COVID-19 patients. and I actually majored in microbiology, then I was very much convinced that this hypothermia will work definitely on COVID-19 patients. And you see that up until now, and back then, even in the very early stages of the COVID-19 pandemic, there were no treatments available for it. So we wanted to apply this treatment for the entire patients that we had at Seosan Medical Center. But we were only able to apply it to the patients who gave us the consent. So that's why the sample size is so small. But what we did was not the clinical study. What we did was we provided the treatment to the actual COVID-19 patient, and this was approved by the Chungcheongnam-do province's governor. So that's why there is no control group, and there is no need to talk about the sample size being too small. And I'm so proud that we, for the first time in the world, that we applied this treatment method of hypothermia to the COVID-19 patients so that we were able to treat them and so that the COVID-19 patients can recover fast.
Okay, I don't buy into that reasoning that just because he believed so, and you have a small sample, and it is actually allowed by the governor. I'm not even sure if it went through the ethics committee. Okay, but even if you do that, you must have an objective. For every patient, there must be a certain regime. You can't be randomly, this person is 2 hours, this person is an hour. Anyway, is there any other questions? Because we are really running out of time. We are meant to do this for about 1.5 hours, and we are almost 2 hours. I would like to say that this is has been enlightening in certain ways. This was done in collaboration with Adipose Lab, and Alpha Medical Center is actually providing the CPD points. I think there is actually a hypothermal machine in Alpha Medical Center. And thank you very much, everyone. Whether we are convinced by the evidence that has been posted by you, the speakers, we will take a vote maybe later, but it has all been very enlightening, and I am very pleased to meet all of you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Grace. Thank you, Moses. And thank you, everyone. Good evening and have a nice weekend ahead. Bye.